Hello and welcome back to Comedy Means Business. It's September 29th and our guest today is Caleb Hearon, a Missouri-born comic who has parlayed digital fame into a thriving multi-platform comedy career. Recently placing 6th on Rolling Stone's list of 2025's most influential creators, edging out the likes of Alex Cooper and Mr. Beast, Hearon got his start in Chicago's comedy scene after graduating from Missouri State, first making waves with Twitter jokes and character-driven sketches that exploded online. Those viral hits opened doors to television writing and on-screen work, and he expanded his reach with the hit podcast So True, all while steadily honing the sharp yet sweet voice for which he's known as a stand-up. This brings us to Model Comedian, Caleb's debut comedy special which just released on HBO. Using the special as a springboard, he unpacks his rise and what he hopes to achieve with the momentum he's built. Caleb also touches on the day jobs that shaped his view of people, his belief in resisting algorithms while honing real-world craft, the care he takes in deciding whom to platform, and the strategic no's that have brought him to where he is today. Welcome, Caleb. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So you've got your debut comedy special on HBO just recently. How are you feeling about that?
I feel good. I'm excited that it's out in the world. You know, it's a group process for a long time between you and the audience, and then it's a kind of very small process with the editor and the director for a while, and you start to second guess it and be like, oh my God, what is this thing? And then now it's this really fun part where I'm like, oh, it doesn't even belong to me anymore. It belongs to the world, and I'm so glad that it's out.
It was like the culmination of like a decade of material. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think, the oldest joke in there was probably 10 years old that I pulled in, and the newest one was maybe a week before the taping. So most of it was developed in the last like 2 years, but a joke or two was from a long time ago that I really had waited to put in something. And it's kind of crazy to think about, but yeah, it's a long time in the making.
You'd mentioned just now that off air that you don't kind of get up and do the usual comic thing of like getting up 4 times a night in the city. So like, what was the process like in developing the set for you?
Yeah, it was basically like maybe 2 years ago. I was coming off of maybe a writer's room or something, and my touring agent was like, hey, do you want to do a big tour and put together an hour? I had never done an hour at that point. I had plenty of material. I just had never been working the circuit like that because I was in Chicago doing a lot of like sketch and more alt stuff, and then it was COVID and whatever. So I just went on the road with a bunch of mishmash material that wasn't really an hour, and kind of found it on the road. And so I toured, I think maybe that tour was like 25 US cities, and then like Toronto and London. So I kind of built the hour on the fly like that, which was really exciting and fun, and very nice of the audiences to like be there for that and let me do that. And then so had it for a bit, had the hour for a bit, didn't really know what we were going to do with it. It didn't, we were kind of like, oh, well, this place has a gap in the schedule and this place isn't buying right now or whatever, all that kind of stuff. So then it was like, oh, do we do it independent and just put it out? And then it was like, well, let's wait a minute. And then HBO said they wanted to make it, which was so exciting. And it was like the standard in stand-up specials for me. And so I kind of went back out on the road. I think I did like 6 cities, just tightening it up and getting it ready. And then we made it.
That's amazing. And it was kind of a culmination of a long journey, I guess. Like, when did you start out in comedy? Was it like a decade ago?
Yeah, I technically started comedy in 2014, 2015. But really after college, I moved to Chicago in 2017, and that's when I really started like doing it every night.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that journey and how you've come to this place because it can seem long, but I guess it's also quite quick of a trajectory for a lot of people to go in 10 or so years to an HBO special. How exactly did you get your start? You started out in college, and then what did it look like from there?
Yeah, I started out in college. I was doing college improv with my friends on campus, and then there was my friend Casey ran a burlesque show in Springfield, Missouri, in the Bible Belt, and she was like, "Hey, we'll pay you $20 if you come host this thing and like do some material." And I was like, "Okay." So that's how I started stand up, was a paid gig on a burlesque show, not bad. And then Yeah, I did that for a while, and then I interned in New York for 2 summers of undergrad. So I went to a billion shows at UCB. I tried to do some open mics in New York and was like, this is making me suicidal. So then I kind of put stand up on the back burner a little bit, focused on improv and sketch. And then really, when I got to Chicago, after about maybe like 10 months, almost a year of training improv only, I was like, oh, damn, I really want to try stand up again. And so I got back into it around then.
Was comedy part of your life from very early on?
Comedy, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I wouldn't describe myself as ever being like a comedy nerd. I was never like watching like comedy documentaries and that kind of stuff the way that I think a lot of people describe being into comedy when they were younger. But we always loved watching comedy, and we always loved like watching like comedy movies as a group. And like we would get into like stand-up specials later on, kind of when I was in high school. But we were always in. I come from a very funny family, so that is to say, we were just always kind of laughing and making bits and stuff like that.
Hmm. So, what did you envision for yourself, career-wise, like at the very start?
Oh God, like in comedy, or like before I decided I wanted
I
to do
guess either,
comedy.
because at one point you were in a totally different sort of focus, right? Like
Oh my God, Matt, I thought I
law.
was going to be a lawyer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
You
can't.
would
Can you believe I thought?
you would have been the funniest lawyer. Oh my god.
Oh my God, there's so many lawyers in improv classes. It's so funny. It's like the overlap there is so well. The overlap there is like, look at me, please.
Is that true?
But oh, I think so. Oh yeah, there's every improv class. If you ask anyone who's taken improv classes, at some point they've had a lawyer in there.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I'm so glad I obviously did not pursue law as a study. But yeah, I originally wanted to study law, and then really I was just starting comedy and moving to Chicago to do it. I had day jobs the whole time. I finished my degree so that I could like have a safety plan, and then I don't know that I really envisioned going to Chicago that I would actually make a living at comedy. I don't. That was not like a thing that I was like, oh yeah, I'll put in the work and then I'll get paid for it and then it'll be my full-time job. It kind of felt like a pipe dream, and then it worked out that way, thank God. But that really, my plan was kind of to keep working jobs that would pay the bills during the day and do comedy at night, and I thought that would just be kind of fun.
Tell me about the day jobs. Were there any that were particularly great or terrible?
Matt. Oh my God. I like literally I had some of the worst. I had some good ones too. I had my last day job for now. We'll see. Was I was an executive assistant at an ad agency, and that one was pretty cool. That wasn't bad. I helped out with like emails and travel and stuff. But
Hmm.
before that, God, I worked at a finance firm. That was hell. I uh I walked dogs. I drove for Uber Eats. I worked at a heating and air conditioning company briefly. I mean, if it had a little bit of money to give me, I did it. And I'm grateful for it though. I learned so much about people during that time in my life, and that was so helpful.
Tell me, what did you learn?
Oh, just interacting with different kinds of people and the different kinds of ways that people ask for what they need or don't ask for what they need, but it becomes obvious throughout talking to them. And like the really, I think so much of my comedy is just poking fun at the ridiculousness of being alive right now and how silly I think this whole thing is. And if there's anything that can make you feel like being alive is a sort of cartoonish task in tedium, it's working in offices in your 20s. I just, yeah, being around the professional world and just being like, you guys all made this shit up to torture each other and now you're like pretending it's law. It's insane. I'm like, it really, the professional world is such a stupid made up place. I can't help but think about it all the time when I'm writing.
So it seems like you feel like in general, like don't take life too seriously, don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, I enjoyed how you responded to that whole Mr. Beast situation with the Rolling Stone list, because I appreciate that you didn't respond in any way that was I'm looking too much into this at all.
Yeah, I think people have got to relax. Like, we have got to relax. We have so many big issues. Like, there are just so many things in this world that we actually need to fix that I'm like feeling slighted over the fact that someone like, I don't know, made a joke or made a comment about where you wound up on a creators list of influential people is like, you got to get a grip. Like that's just not important. It doesn't matter. And I think like overall, absolutely, we should stop taking things so seriously, especially ourselves. I think like life is supposed to be fun. We only get to do this once. It's such a silly set of circumstances that we're like living, breathing organisms floating on a rock in space, and people are like mad at each other over whether or not they got an email response quick enough. It's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, that's so bleak.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where we're at. Well, what I
Yeah.
appreciate about you is like, while you can be sharp or subversive, there is a softness or a warmth to you as a stand-up that's really lovely. It very different comics, but it reminds me of Joe Pera in a sense. When I saw his stuff for the first time, I was like, I love this. This makes me feel at home, and it's nice to have that at a time when the world is like very harsh and pretty ugly, right?
That's such a lovely compliment. Someone the other day said that my stuff made them feel like it was a mix between Joe Pera and Bill Hicks, and I was like, you know what? Hey, an honor to be compared to both of them. I think Joe is so funny, and it's comforting is what I wanted the special to be. Katie Birmingham, who designed the set, is such a genius, and Mark, who did the lighting, and Jared, who DP'd it, and Sandy at Honig, who directed it. Like, really, our mission as a group was to be like, I want this to feel so cozy and built out and carpeted and velvet, and like, I want found chairs in the audience, I want couches, I want lamps. Like, I wanted it to feel like we had all been hanging out, and I just got up and started telling some stories. That was the vibe, and so that's a huge compliment, and I appreciate that.
It's a lovely shout out to the people around you at the end of the special. I hadn't seen that kind of thing before, including a shout out to Chance Nichols, who's been working with us a little bit on this very podcast. I understand he was a key figure in building yours as well, right?
Yeah, Chance was very instrumental in making So True. He's a genius. I met him doing college improv. We went to the same college. I love that guy. That's part of the hangout vibe. It's a really kind of deceiving art form, stand up, because you stand up there on stage alone, and that's the image, is you on stage alone, and that's the poster, and that's the whole thing. But it takes like a small fucking army to make this thing, and it is really inspiring that you walk into the venue when you're going to prep, and you're like, holy shit, all these fucking people are busting their ass around the clock to make my jokes look as good as possible.
I had no idea there were that many people involved in like bringing a special to life, honestly. Like, are there things people might not know about the nuts and bolts of that process as someone who's just gone through it for the first time?
Dude, me neither. I didn't know. I mean, they show up and I'm like, who are all these people? Because that's, we had great producers, that Abso and Janelle and Dave and Tova and Olivia, my managers, who produced, like, that's really, really good producers make it to where you don't know how much is going into something until you get there. And it's all kinds of things. It's like, you need so many people you don't think about like, okay, so we built the stage, we built a custom stage, and we carpeted it. Someone has to go through and like cut off little pieces of the carpet and vacuum it over and over again to make it look there's just so many little jobs that have to happen. And we had such an incredible crew. I think like that was part of the hangout vibe of the special too, is that Kevin and Katie Waxahachie, they did a custom song for it, and I just wanted it to feel like an ode to like all the people it takes to make a thing,
You mentioned your managers. I'm curious, like, at what point in your career did the decision of like taking on reps come up, and how did you approach that sort of process for yourself?
Well, Tova and Olivia have been my managers. They're my first managers, and I still are. And we've been working together almost 6 years now. And I can't wait to get new ones. I'm excited to fire them and get some real heavy hitters in there. Kidding, love you guys. Yeah. No, they're the best. They cold DM me on Twitter. I thought they were scam artists. I was like, no legitimate company would DM somebody on Twitter, but it turns out they worked for a reputable company. And the decision to work with them was just that they felt like good people who had a similar vision for what I wanted to do. That when I met with them, I was like, I know you probably have seen me on the internet, but I don't just want to do internet stuff. It's not where I started. It's not what I care about. And so I really felt like they had a care and an interest in building something different with me, where we could do a bunch of different kinds of things. And I think, the question of like, well, how do you decide to take on a team or whatever, is like, well, once someone will help you get work, you go, well, thank you.
Yeah. And you've got like a really nice career going across all different platforms now, getting new opportunities in film and TV. You mentioned the digital space. Was that a part of the story in terms of like getting to where you are in terms of an audience? Like, it seemed like, from what I understood, like Twitter, you were especially big on Twitter early on. And now you're not even on Twitter for reasons you can discuss.
Yeah, a very complicated relationship with the internet, but love it and appreciate it in many ways. Absolutely. There's no HBO special if I don't have an online following. I think we're at a place where, look, everything is so fragmented and like nicheified that like there is no monoculture. There's not, these companies don't have the same power they used to like break talent per se.
Hmm.
So now instead of you going to a network and asking them to bring you in front of their audience, the network comes to you and asks you to bring your audience to them.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We just saw that with
it's a
SNL because all the people I wrote a piece on that. All the people who came to SNL came with their own audiences, which is kind of
It's part of
crazy.
the equation. It's
Yeah.
like HBO has so much to offer the equation, right? They themselves do have a large audience. They have a marketing budget. They have all these things to offer it. But like, yeah, you got to have your own audience now. You have to go build it. And so, yeah, the internet has been massively instrumental in helping me get and make work. And I view it as like a necessary task to be able to make what I really want to make and to kind of have financial security in the background so that I can go make little movies that maybe otherwise wouldn't have the time or the money to do.
So what did the nitty gritty, I guess, look like early on? You were posting a lot on Twitter, like posting like character stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, first I was posting on Twitter for years, just jokes, just writing jokes on Twitter. That was it. There was no videos, there was no like memes. It was just me writing jokes forever, like things about the news and stuff. And then there came a time in Chicago where, a bunch of us, Meg Stalter, Holmes, Grace Kulenschmidt, Sarah Squirm, we were all in Chicago at the same time. And
Oh wow.
we all started deciding that like Twitter was a place that video should happen. And I can't remember if it was just that maybe they expanded their video options or something at the time back when Twitter was cool. And so we started posting comedy videos on there, and um, every technological advance that happens, comedians and sex workers are like the first people to figure out how to use it. It's like those are the two groups that really make a place happen. And so we started doing character videos and stuff like that on Twitter, and it kind of became the thing to do there for a while before TikTok came around, which was the natural escalation of that idea.
Right.
But yeah, Twitter back in the day was like the place. I feel so old now when I talk about it because now it's a fucking nightmare because that idiot bought it and ran it into the ground. But it used to be fucking awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be hard to even advise comics today what to do, right? Because it just evolves so fast. These platforms and like the algorithm and what you're chasing, it seems very hard to pin down.
Yeah, don't chase the algorithm. That's what I would say. To like figure out what works for you in the system, because it was the same thing when we were in Chicago that like the writing was on the walls that the institutions in Chicago were no longer serving artists, that like going and putting in a decade at Second City and begging them to put you on a touring company so you could be seen by SNL or whatever, like
Yeah.
that felt like hieroglyphics or something. It's like I'm not doing that. That felt like cave writings. It was like it felt so old school, and so we found a new way, and like that's just what it always is. It's never it feels like, at least in comedy to me, it feels like the old path has always just stopped working and now you have to figure out the new thing. And so I think that's just the way of it. You got to figure out how to make it work for you.
Do you have any perspective on like when the moment was that things shifted like this? It seems like maybe the last 10 years, 10, 15 years. But it's interesting to track that from like back in the days when Second City was the place or Groundlings, and now it's like it's just a completely different world.
Yeah, I mean, I think those places are still super valuable. I learned a lot of skills from IO. I didn't learn much from Second City. I did like one fellowship there, and it was fine. But those places are valuable. Those skills are still needed. I will say, like, please still go get training. Don't just rely on the internet. Like, go find someplace, whether it's doing a million shows in a city that has a scene or going through a training program. Like, real skills are needed, and not just like whether or not you can build an audience. There are real skills involved in creating things, which feels like, I guess, now an opinion to have, although that has always just been fact. But yeah, I think like somewhere in the 2010s, it feels like just something shifted, and it was probably the rise of the internet and like the complete dependence on smartphones that made that shift accelerate. But that was probably when.
So, do you remember some of the first pieces you put out online that really built huge traction?
Yeah, I had some big viral tweets that had gotten me like just written tweets that had gotten me some attention. I was maybe I had like a couple thousand followers off of it. That I had some big written jokes, and then I made one video. I had put out a couple videos. They had done fine. Maybe they'd gotten like 100 retweets or something, and that felt like, okay, I'm getting some traction. And then I put out a video that was me talking to a friend who's clearly in the wrong. Was the idea of the video that my friend was calling me and they were in the wrong, and I was like, oh, totally, you're so right. Like I was lying to them, and it went fucking. I walked in. I remember it was posted. I walked into a movie in Chicago with my friends, and at the time I didn't have my phone silenced or my notifications turned off because it simply was not a problem I was having, and my phone was blowing up, like buzzing nonstop, and so I just kind of shut it off without looking at it, and then I stepped out, and like Chrissy Teigen had quote tweeted it, and a bunch of other people had to, and I had like overnight I had like 75,000 followers and this like massively viral video that like I didn't have a team, I didn't have publicists or anything, but magazines were like reaching out to me about doing articles and stuff, and I was like, what the fuck? So that one for sure, that video really changed things.
What was the process, I guess, in converting followers to being able to sell tickets and fill rooms? Like, what did that kind of look like? Was that because I know that one thing doesn't necessarily mean the other, right?
Yeah, I think part of the first and foremost piece of that is luck. Like I just kind of got really lucky every time I needed to so far, and hopefully that doesn't run out soon. But I think I really do think the biggest part of it is luck, and then I think also I was ready for the luck to come, and I'm good at what I do, and so I think having the skill to back it up. A lot of people get internet followings, and they don't.
Before,
Yeah,
right,
and then
right,
they go,
right.
"Oh, well, now I'm going to go on tour," and then they're surprised that the ticket sales don't match the following, and it's like, "Well, yeah, you aren't good," and there's there's no shame in that. That's not even to be
Yeah.
mean. That's like
Right,
that
right.
can be very inspiring. It's like you just have work to do, and that if you choose to get excited about that, then that'll be fun. But like, yeah,
100%.
you're not very good, and that's okay. You need to go get good. You know.
That is a really interesting phenomenon in comedy today, right? Like there are a fair amount of those people who can like sell a shit ton of tickets, but then you kind of have to back that up with something. And if you don't, then it can quickly kind of backfire. Like you need to have a foundation of craft on which to build things and something that's really thought through.
Yeah, and the internet at its best has been a place where like you look at somebody like Leanne Morgan, who's so funny, you know, and she busted her ass for so long and had the skill set and worked so hard, and then the internet was at its best in her situation where it just like gave attention to this great artist who has the skills. Um, but yeah, you have to have the goods. I think even like, you know, sometimes it's really unfair. Like when Shane Gillis got fired from SNL and people were like, "Oh, this was better for his career than anything else would have been." It's like, yes, that's true, but he's also a very technically talented stand-up. He is just good at stand-up. And so,
100%.
yeah, having an actual skill set is something that it can be built. You just have to work at it. So I don't view it as an insult. I just think like, yeah, it's tough when people who blow up on the internet and don't have a skill set are then kind of expected by their team and their audience to develop one overnight.
You mentioned Shane Gillis. I obviously could never condone what he said that got him kicked off of SNL, but it was really striking to watch him after the fact go on to be touring arenas and to be never at a bigger point in his career, to the point where SNL even came back and asked him to host shortly thereafter. What did you make of that moment? It was pretty striking, and I'm curious what you think it reflects about comedy culture now.
Well, I think it's a really complicated situation because Shane is a very talented comic that I, you know, disagree with on some things, but like
For
that
sure.
what he got fired for was just like extremely racist babbling. I mean, it was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
it was just objectively fucked up. Do I think he should have gotten fired for it? I don't know because the I think it's an interesting moment that we're all grappling with where like these companies are bigger than ever. They're making more money than they ever have. They're getting more and more consolidated. We have no antitrust or monopoly. We seem to have no interest in breaking those up and just kind of letting four companies run all of our lives forever. And so, okay. But then at the same time, even though the inherent sort of enterprise of a media conglomerate is unethical, we like to pride ourselves on our brands having ethics. And it's like, these places don't have ethics. They don't care what Shane said or didn't say. They don't care what anyone did or didn't say. The reason that they're willing to fire someone from the show and then have them come back and host is because Lorne Michaels is just an extension of that brand. It's a business. They're making business decisions, and they think that'll be eyeballs. And so,
Yeah, exactly. They
yeah,
watched that after and were like, well, he has a huge following, so and that's what it's about at the end of the day, right?
yeah, and also that place has a, you know, SNL has a kind of like psychosexual, sadistic, like they like to like fire people and tell them to fuck off and then bring them back and let them joke about. I mean, it's like a really weird. There's a lot of shit going on, and there must be like mold in the building or something over there. I don't know what's going on with the mentality of the inner workings of that place, but overall, I think we are in a really interesting moment of like corporations and values and morals and who can say what. And I don't worry about it personally, but I think that people are really having a hard time grappling with when their companies don't have the beliefs that they kind of want them to have.
Yeah, I appreciate that you're willing to engage these things in a kind of in the middle, but you've also been willing to speak out with people you disagree with, like Joe Rogan or Tony Hinchcliffe. Like, what informs that? Because I feel like there aren't that many people who will do that, because comedy can be kind of a club where, or it's like the mafia to me, where it's like you don't talk negatively about a fellow comic, you know what I mean? Like, but what if someone's basic principles and what they're doing are kind of not what you're about, I guess.
I'm interested in fairness. I really like being fair. I think it's an appropriate thing to try and be. Look, Joe Rogan is one of the worst stand-up comics I've ever seen in my life. He just doesn't have it. He's not good at stand-up comedy, and that is reality. And by the way, someone might hear me say that and go like, "Why didn't like your special?" And it's like, that's fine. You are allowed to think that maybe Joe and I are cut from the same cloth, that we're not good at stand-up. But I am telling you, Joe Rogan is one of the worst people I've ever seen do stand-up in my life. It's actually like embarrassing. And also, in fairness to Joe, I feel like a lot of people treat him like he's this like extremely alt-right, like white nationalist guy who's never done anything right or said anything right. I don't feel like that's true of his politics. I think that he has done something incredibly cool with his platform, which is put on a bunch of comics who otherwise wouldn't have a career. Then they come on his show and they sell out venues across the country. He's a very generous guy in that way. But for some reason, we are living in this time now where you can't hold two truths at once, even though that's kind of what life is.
Do you know? Are you familiar with Ronan Hirschberg?
No.
Yeah, he's a New York comic. It was funny watching him wrestle with the ambivalence of that as well, because he was like, "Well, I was brought on to Joe Rogan, but does that mean I can't ever say something negative?" Like, he is someone who's like, "I'm going to say it how I see it, and it's like, come what come may," basically. But yeah, it's interesting to watch comics have to kind of decide where they're gonna fall on these things.
I just don't. Yeah, there's no such thing as to me as the comedy family is so funny to me, where I'm like, even if that were something I bought into, which it's not, my family doesn't escape me asking questions about the things they say. My family doesn't always get an uncritical eye from me. So I don't know. I think it's I wish that we in general had more of a spine and a value system right now. I think like, Theo Vaughn and a bunch of those guys who I've got positive things to say about them. There are times that I watch Theo stuff and I think like that was shockingly heartfelt and nuanced. But then, like right now, Theo's online, shouting down Homeland Security because they put out a fucking like Hope Corps TikTok about deporting people using him as the intro to it. And he's going, "Oh, I didn't consent to this." And it's like, well, you did. You've co-signed the regime.
Right.
You have given what I want comedians to understand, especially the ones that are like flirting with these right-wing wannabe demagogues, is that the reason they need us, the reason that they like comedians and want to be around comedians, is that we help them portray their agendas as palatable and just like a different way to look at things. When it's like mass deportation is not a different way to look at things. It's an actively evil endeavor. And when you have them on your show and kick your feet and giggle with them like fucking middle school girls at a sleepover, you are co-signing the things that they want to do and making them seem like they're just one of the guys. And there are going to be consequences for that. And I think a lot of those guys, Andrew Schultz as well, I think they're dealing with the repercussions of that behavior right now. And maybe they care and maybe they don't. Maybe it's just money for them to come out and talk about it. But I don't buy into the idea that comedy is a family, or that even if it was, that I'm not allowed to say when I think something's off.
There have been so many famous instances of people platforming people that you look back and you're like, huh? Like, remember when Trump went on, I think, Fallon, and he was like messing with his hair, like it was like a joke. And SNL, same thing, like right before the election.
My stance on things is, I think, very clear. I'm an extremely left guy. That's how I feel about stuff. It doesn't mean that I think everyone else is stupid or necessarily wrong. My experience in this world has led me to this point of view. I don't have any politicians on my show, and plenty of them have asked. No politicians are coming on my show. Even very, very big politicians have asked to come on my show, and the answer is no, because I
Really?
don't know. I don't know what you're going to go on and
Who's
do.
asked?
Plenty of people. I don't want to make anyone seem silly for asking, because
Fair,
I
fair.
don't want to blow anyone up like that. But um, the answer is no, because I don't know what you're going to go on and do, and I'm just not interested in being like, look, I'll have activists, I'll have organizers on my show, and I guess I'll play the fool if they someday run for office on a platform of mass deportation. But yeah, I'm not interested in that shit.
Do you? Where do you find like? How do you find? How would you define your audience at this point? Like someone pointed out in an article, you embody all these interesting contradictions. I mean, you're a guy from Missouri, but you're very left leaning. Like you're all these different things, and like, do you have an audience on kind of both sides of the political spectrum? Like, is it? I'm curious, sort of, about that.
I do. I randomly have a lot of Republican fans, and I
Even
think
though
I
you're calling them, you use the F word. I can't say it, but yeah.
Well, not all. Come on, Matt. Say the F word. No, I don't. I'm not saying that all of them are like that. I'm just saying like
No, it was a joke.
No, for sure. But there is a point to that it's like I don't. You bring up a great point, which is that I'm shocked that so many men in the middle of this country who are genuine blue collar working class dudes that bust their fucking ass at work every day to build our roads and bridges and farm our food and do all this extremely vital work. They're actual like working guys that I have so much respect for, that they have fallen into voting for these faggy like Ted Cruz types. Like, I'm sorry, like Ted Cruz is like, the fact that he's captured working class guys is like, he just looks pathetic. Like, I don't know, he just like is so smarmy. He has like 3 Ivy League degrees or something. It's just, he's like a lawyer. He's like painting graffiti on the side of a highway doing like stunt queen behavior. It's like, I don't know. The guys I grew up around, working class Missouri guys, if we encountered somebody like Ted Cruz or JD Vance in like a diner, they would be like, get a load of this fucking loser. But somehow politically they've been captured by those guys, and I don't understand it. But I think at least part of it is that no one's presenting an alternative that is at all compelling. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I think that part of the reason I have a lot of fans who have different kinds of opinions about the world is that they like to see anyone telling the truth, and that not even necessarily if they agree that what I'm saying is the truth, but they like that I am not afraid to make jokes about everything. And I think like, okay, well, I'm mostly making fun of you, but if you like it over here, you're welcome.
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked the question, because it's nice to hear that there are people whose political beliefs might not align with yours and they still follow you.
I actually just think that politically, which kind of comedy is so political, and this moment we're in is so political. If you're paying any attention, I think that most of us agree on more than we disagree on. I really, really do. I think that actually most people, now some people have been snowed into getting really worked up about shit that they're so worked up about the idea that someone has paperwork and they're undocumented or whatever. I actually think that's like some manipulation from the political parties. I think most people, if you say like, hey, I'm a really left guy. I'm very leftist. I have a lot of trans friends. I'm a gay guy who lives part of the year in Brooklyn. Um, what can we agree on? And then I say like, hey, I'm in support of venture capital firms not buying up single family houses in small towns. I'm for factory farms not destroying family farms. I'm for higher wages and billionaires paying their part, et cetera, et cetera. I think these are actually like really, really popular ideas. And if you look at a place like Missouri where Trump won by like, I don't know, 20 points, the same ballot, abortion passed by 4 points, which is huge in a place like Missouri. Raising the minimum wage passed by like 11 points or something. The same Missouri a couple years ago passed legalized weed by like 4 or 5 points. These are places that are voting for our policies, but not our candidates. And I think that tells the whole story.
100%. Well, going back to your career, you have fairly attributed part of that to luck, but I'm curious, like, if you had to talk about strategic moves for you that have helped you in building what you have now, like what are those?
I think saying no a lot. I think saying no at the right time. I think not making long term decisions about short term money. Not chasing, not saying yes to every brand deal or not taking a gig just because the money is good. Like really trying to be thoughtful about who I work with and where I spend my time. And I think really the biggest one, if I think about it, is kind of like not allowing myself to become a singular thing. That every time I did a type of video that people liked, they wanted me to do only that. I would just stop doing it immediately.
Right, right.
I think that's a huge thing. Is just being like, if you're somebody who wants to do a lot of things, don't just for the sake of loving the attention, do just one thing when people ask you to. I think that's part of it.
Is that hard to resist? Because I would imagine like if you're early in your
Yeah.
career and you're like a broke comedian starting out and you get success with one thing, it's like it seems like it could be tough to hold out for who you want to be artistically versus being. You've talked about not wanting to be put in a box like that, not wanting to be at these young Hollywood parties. I could very easily see you at, because that they like to put people in these sort of boxes. But that seems
100%.
tough. Yeah, yeah.
It is tough. It is 100% tough. There's no part of me that wants to make it seem easy. It is totally tough. I wonder constantly if it's the right thing. Cuz you do this thing where you go like, "Oh, well, isn't it better that someone like me is in that space or whatever?" You have all these little rationalizations. Um but yeah, I was saying no long before I had any right to, and I think that's why I think it's so lucky that I do have any kind of career, is because it just as easily could have been like, oh well, then kind of fuck you and we're good. So I do feel very lucky that I've been allowed to kind of move in that way and still get work and stuff.
For sure. So I guess like in terms of your podcast, what were what were the tell me about that? Like what was the process of building that into what it is now? Because again, you've got this huge audience. How did you find the framework for So True, and what all went into that? What has the journey been with the pod?
Yeah, it basically was just that I was like, I think it's time for me to have something like this. I think it's time for me to try and exercise some control and build make a thing that I don't know if people really remember this or not, but like people who are fans of mine, when I started the podcast, I had like 100,000 followers on TikTok. I had like 30,000 on Instagram, and I don't care about the followings, but unfortunately, that's how you get shit sold and you make things. And so I really realized like, hey, there's a content machine that needs to be fed. I tried the characters videos thing and I didn't like the way that it was going. I tried crowd work for a moment and I didn't like that. It didn't make me feel good. So this is my kind of one last attempt at feeding the content machine.
Hmm.
And then if that doesn't work out, I'm just going to have to find a different way. And so Chance and I went to Chance because he had worked for some YouTubers, and I knew that that's where you kind of make money off these things. And I said like, hey, I don't want to have a super formatted, like weighed down by premise type of show. I just want to be able to chit chat with people I actually like, and ideally they don't have to be more and more famous every single week for it to work. And
Yeah.
and yeah, he just helped me build a show, and we made it happen.
To borrow a little bit from your format, what is one thing we haven't talked about that is so true about the comedy business today?
Oh God. Um, One thing that is so true about the comedy business today. I think one thing that's so true about the comedy business today is that so many very talented people are falling through the cracks because they haven't found uh, the very specific and bizarre way to navigate the internet. And being good at the internet is a totally separate skill set from being good at stand up or sketch or acting or writing. You're lucky if you can do multiple, but I would love to just find more ways to help the industry in general, to find more ways to help people who are very talented break through without having to start a huge podcast or whatever. I think yeah, just some of the funniest comics I know don't have these massive followings, but they are losing out on jobs or opportunities or something to people who are less funny that do, and I think that's unfortunate.
100%. Well, if you're on the road now, what are you playing? Is it like a combination of clubs and theaters? Like, what does it look like for you?
My last tour was all theaters. I imagine that if I build another hour, I would do smaller rooms for a while and kind of build there. I don't want to build in a theater. Um, but yeah, probably the next tour, if I'm going to build an hour, would be small rooms, and if I'm going to just take out a big show like the podcast again or something, I'd keep doing theaters. It just kind of depends on the material.
Is your goal, like you've talked about not having the ambition or the desire to go too big? It's interesting today that going to arenas is possible for so many comics. That wasn't a thing in decades past, but it seems like maybe you wouldn't want that. Like, what is your ideal scenario long
I'm
term?
not interested. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to go. I don't want to grow end over end. I think like this is fine. The rooms I'm playing right now are so lovely. I'd love to play these theaters forever, and every couple of years even. I don't. Um, the treatment of every single thing in our culture, like it's venture capital, like it needs to be grown end over end over end all the time, is so bizarre to me and so unhappy to me. I think like if I get to be in like one or two cool movies a year and go on a tour every once in a while and put out a special here and there if it feels like it, I that is like the most charmed life I can imagine. And so I'm pretty good with things just kind of being like that.
And it's working out. You're getting some great opportunities in the film and TV space, like Devil Wears Prada, the sequel. What did you feel when you were offered that?
Uh, well, I got the call. I was standing outside of a restaurant in the rain when I got the call. So first of all, I was like, I gotta get the fuck off this call and go back inside. But I thought that was so cool. And honestly, I didn't. What I auditioned for, it was a very secretive audition process. I didn't really know what the role was. I was just kind of reading lines. And so I didn't have a full scope of what the role was going to be because of the secrecy of the project. And so I thought like, well, it sounds really cool. I'm excited to be part of it. Um, but yeah, that's really crazy. It's very surreal and very fun to get to be a small part of it. And I think stuff like that, getting to pop into something and have a good time for a couple weeks that's a blast. I'd love to do that more.
I wanted to look back. Like the first one came out in 2006. So where were you even in 2006? Like this was before you even started building your, like that's crazy, right?
I was 11, and I was in Missouri. And I remember watching it as like a closeted 11-year-old gay boy and being like, it felt kind of, there's that thing in the movie where Stanley Tucci's like, oh, little boys who read this magazine with a flashlight under the covers. I was like, that's me watching this movie. I just felt so like, I adored it. And it's been that for so many gay kids. And yeah, being in the second, I had a lot of processing about that every day going to work on the second one. It was very, very cool.
Is there anything else like that coming up that you would want to talk about, like projects that are exciting for you?
Well, I think at this moment we're about to go make my movie about my dad that
Oh,
Colin
really?
Trevorrow and Lily Wachowski have helped develop. And
Trash Mountain?
yeah, Trash Mountain.
Oh, that's an autobiographical thing.
Yeah, I mean it's fictionalized, but it's based on the true story, and it seems like we finally, knock on wood, got the rest of the money for it. So I think we're gonna go do that soon, which will be a sort of devastating way to end the year, but a fun one. And yeah, I think there's that coming up. And I just filmed a movie for Netflix with Ego Wodum and Eric Andre and John Cena that'll come out sometime next
Oh,
year.
Little Brother. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Spicer directed, and he's so great. I'm very excited about that one. Ego and I get to play these ridiculous characters in it. But yeah, I'm excited. I just want to, honestly, my dream is to like keep popping into stuff and being funny for a little bit and then head out.
Well, you're doing a great job with it. We're big fans of you here at Comedy Means Business. Thank you so much, Caleb, for taking the time to speak with me.